Everybody, welcome to my workshop. My name's Colwin and we're here at Miller's Farm Shop down in sunny Devon today. I'm here with Farmer Tom, and today we're going to be doing, if you remember, last time we looked at a lovely piece of yew and we were turning it into a hollow form. We've also done a couple of other videos where I was exploring that same sort of form, but in what I call onion vase shapes. So it's a similar sort of shape as that one. Now, at the moment, I've got it covered up with a bin liner or rubble sack just to stop it from moving and splitting and things like that. So I thought I'd keep that on there just to show you. I've always said when it comes to things like this that you need to finish them in one sitting almost, but obviously on a live where you're doing several parts, you can't do that. So I've kept it all on the chuck still, wrapped up in that bin liner. And I've had a go at it today. We've taken out the center. So we're nice and hollow in there. I'll show you the thickness in a moment with my double-sided checkers. But that's where we are. And I have tweaked the shape. Tom, would you go, I don't know, let's go above for the minute and just have a look at that. There you go. So that's the sort of shape. Now I've taken a little bit off of here. So if you remember here, it was almost like a Chinese lantern last time. And I looked at it several times over the past week, and I thought I'm not overly keen. So I've just shaved a little bit more colors come off of here. I've added a couple of bits of glue where I thought there's potential for splitting and things like that. Bearing in mind that this is fairly damp still, I didn't want to take any chances. Now it's hollow, I can crack on and finish it. And hopefully, as long as I don't get it too warm too soon, nothing will happen. You, as a timber, is prone to checking on the end grain here anyway, so you've got to be quite careful when you're sanding. And last time I didn't do too much, but this time I've got everything set up. We've got all the dust extraction, or we will have all the dust extraction going, so we're going to sand and get a nice finish. Thank you, Tom. That's perfect. I've chosen food safe foil to finish this with in a minute. So once we've gone through that whole process, we've got to take a lot out the back. We're going to sand it properly. Once I've gone through that process, food safe oil I've chosen because it's clear. It's almost like water to look at. So it's colorless, odorless. Where the finishing oil or Danish oil, that sort of thing, that was sort of has an amber to it, which I didn't want. I didn't want to color this white any more than I need to. So that's the reason for going for the food safe, more for its finish than its properties, if you know what I mean. So Tom, do you want to say hello? Do you want to see who else is in? Give a few shout outs while I get set up.
Yep, no problem. Hello, everyone. Yes, lots and lots of you here already. So it's good. Gentleman Woodturner here. Hello. And Michael Seagrave and Brian Cruz, Ward Wilson, and Fuller's here also. And so lots and lots of you here. We do have a question straight away from Fuller, if that's all right, Colwin. You ready for this?
Go for it.
Did you leave it mounted on the chuck over the week or so?
Yeah, so I haven't undone this chuck at all. It stayed in there in the bag. Now, this is one of the Axminster Tools chucks, so it's stainless steel, so that hasn't bothered it in any way at all. Because when I opened the bag, the inside was very damp. So that's, most of my chucks that I've got, well, they're all Axminster ones, they're all stainless steel, so they don't get rusty. So I could get away with it that way. But that would be your only issue. If you don't have a stainless steel chuck like the Axminster ones, you'd have to consider that. Rust will be a problem otherwise. So think about those sorts of things. But the reason I've done it is I know that if I took it off the chuck and then remount it, it's never going to go back the same again. There's going to be some movement because we've got a soft material like timber being gripped by a hard metal chuck. So that would be the reason for it. I want to keep everything sound because at that stage that I put it in the bag, I hadn't hollowed it. And so I need it kept in the same place for hollowing out. So I'm having trouble with my mic, Tom. So I've just had a haircut, as you probably noticed, and it's not staying in place. There we go. So yeah, that's the reason. I've just needed to make sure it stayed in that place. So yeah, obviously, if you're going to leave it for months and months and months, then I'd have to rethink that. I'd want to get it finished a bit sooner, I think. All right. And that's a good point. We've got one question. Don't forget, if you're new to this channel, use the chat function. Tom will see the question and ask me. We can relay it that way. All right. I think it's probably a good time just to mention a couple of things. And me and Tom have had a conversation before. We've had a meeting this morning as well. And there's a few things that I've been alluding to over the past couple of lives that we've done. A few exciting developments for me. I've already said in the first two that this is now my full-time role up here. So I'm here demonstrating in my own workshop at Miller's Farm Shop. However, I'm a fully fledged and signed up UK ambassador for Axminster wood turning. My old family, Axminster, remember wood turning wisdom. I'm still working with Axminster, and I knew I would be. That's why I wasn't sad to leave. I'm going to be their UK ambassador for everything wood turning, so chuck centers and things like that. So you will still get to see all the chucks, all the centers. We're going to be doing a load of things on what jaws do different things, you know, what projects you can make with different things. So anything Axminster, please, please, please ask, as well as all your other questions, of course. We will be having an affiliate page on my website, and we'll also be putting affiliate links to products I use within each video as well. So stay tuned for that. This is all developing and evolving as the channel does. So you're living the growth with us. So stick with us to see things change over the next few months, hopefully the next few years. And we'll do a little bit of turning first, and then we'll stop for a little bit because I want to talk to you then about your suggestions of what we're going to make. And that we're doing that next week, aren't we, Tom? It is next week. I think
it's next week. Yeah, we've got because then we've got a break for a couple of weeks, haven't we? After that,
that's it.
But we are going to do some pre-recorded, all being well.
Pre-recorded stuff. So we want to make sure we keep putting stuff in front of you. So we're going to talk about that. We've already picked the one we're going to make, so we'll let you know whose one that was. But let's just to start with, let's get a little bit of sanding done. I want to clean up this the neck here. It's not. Before I do anything, let me just double check the chuck. Make sure if you've left anything for any length of time, either in the chuck or without the chuck being tightened up, you must do that because everything relaxes over time, and you could find that this is quite loose in the chuck. The minute you turn the lathe on or touch the tool on, it could come out. So just be aware of things like that. So checking the chuck, lathe speed down to 0, of course, and then turn the lathe speed on. I say, of course, it's a necessity. You must do that for your own safety. Back down to 0. A lot of things have changed since I used the lathe 2 hours ago. I'm just going to tidy up this little neck here and make it a little bit tidier, a little bit cleaner. I think you can all see there pretty good. Let's go with a small bowl gouge, a little 1/4 inch, 6 mil. There we are. Just going to round that over. Then I'm just going to use a little round nose scraper here just to skim this inner edge. I can't do too much. I've already taken the thickness of this one away, so I'm going to sand most of it. I don't know whether I've completely covered up the camera there or not, but just blending that internal edge in so it's a nice and smooth. I'll just turn my phone to silent, Tom. It's pinging away in the background.
Oh, well, and you'd answer a couple of questions then.
Go on then. Yeah.
Firstly, Martin's asked, how do we get hold of some Colwin Way stickers or CW stickers?
Oh,
we've got to do that, haven't we?
We have, haven't we? Without saying anything now and getting tens of thousands of, well, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? Tens of thousands of people without having loads of people. Let's figure out a way we can do that over the next week. Stick with us. We'll look at doing that next week. Yes, of course, there's cross skew stickers available. We'll put something out and advertise it for you guys.
And
right.
Bob P has asked, when is it not too early for Christmas projects? I think you start about January, don't you?
Well, absolutely. Well, the Christmas for me finishes in March, and then we start up again in August. We've mentioned it every live so far. Some people hate the fact that we do, but no, it's never too late. It's never too early. It's never too late because we've got, as makers, we've got to be making stuff for Christmas, and most shops will start stocking up for Christmas usually in September. Usually a bit too late by the time September comes. So Yeah, absolutely. And I do a lot of writing for magazines, and their Christmas articles, which will come out in November, will have to be in by August. So I'm not just joking when I say Christmas ends in March and starts in August. It's the fact. However, I'm probably going to leave a couple of months before I start doing my first decoration for you.
And Frederick's asked, has it dried out much?
Hasn't dried out at all, Frederick. So if you remember, this this blank was from my good friend Dean. Dean has given us several blanks over the course of the past few months, including that lovely flower blank that we use on the first live we done in here. This is one of his as well. We'll be seeing him later on, Tom, won't we? I'm going to go for a dip in the sea, and he'll be there. So again, I'll thank him. He's already had one of the pieces we've made, so he won't get this one. This is going to go up in the shop. So, but yeah, it's not dry in any way. It's not soaking wet, but you can feel the dampness in there. There's no sap building up on the gouge when I'm cutting, but I can definitely feel it. So look, all I'm doing here, I'm just going to bring the tool rest over to support. I'm just finishing off this shape so I can sand down to a finished area. The hollowing of this one, it took about, how long would you say I was hollowing this for earlier, Tom? Probably about an hour and hour and 10 maybe.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah.
First bit being the hardest bit, so we drilled down through with a 1-inch drill bit first, or in fact I used a beam drill. Like, let me just show you. There we are. That was the bit that we used. So it's a 1-inch beam drill, 25mm beam drill bit. That went down, including the chuck, right the way in. So that was my depth gauge as well. And then my favorite hollowing tools, of course, are going to be the woodcut. So you can still see the residue of the dust from that on there. So that was my hooked tool to get underneath the rim there. That was the woodcut. That's the Pro Form by Woodcut. And then I used a second one. This one was, I might have to go to the number one camera, Tom. It was a straight probe. So I started off without the extension handle, but then when I got to the very bottom down here, there was quite a lot of leverage. So I just put the extension handle on, just put it underneath my shoulder and just leant on it, and it done the right thing. If you're thinking, okay, I'm getting a little bit too much flex in the main shaft here, put that all the way back into the holder and use this on the tool rest. This is really good. This is very thick stuff. This is over an inch, I think. And that works really well. At that point, then that extension handle really comes into its own, because you can just put it underneath your arm and lean on it, and you can get in quite a long distance. You need to have a fairly pokey lathe to do that, of course. This one, this is the old 406, and didn't have a problem with it.
A couple of questions, Colt. Brent has asked, where do you find that dust collector tube that holds its position?
So Axminster Tools do this one. This is called Stay Put Hose, and I use it on all of the lathes that we've got here. It comes in meter lengths from Axminster, and it's one of those things that we're going to put on the affiliate page, isn't it, Tom? And on the affiliate links to our channel.
Yeah. When
we get our heads around doing all those sorts of things. But yeah, if in the meantime, go to Axminster Tools website and just put in Stay Put Hose. It's done in, I think it's done 75, 100. I think it's 50 as well. Yeah. So 2-inch, 3-inch, 4-inch.
And just on some more suggestions, Martin's just said, how about an offset pendant as well?
Yeah. Well, we've had this discussion this morning. We've had so many suggestions in that we think we're probably going to do one every couple of weeks, aren't we? We're never going to run out, but there's other things we got to do as well. But we've had so many suggestions. I will start talking about a few of those in a moment. Let's get this sanded down, and then you can see we'll get a nice bit of finish on there as well, and then we'll talk about your suggestions. I'm going to go a little bit of a mixture here, a bit of hand sanding, a bit of power sanding also. So I'm going to go quiet for a little bit. Any more questions before I do?
No, I think we're good for now. Yes.
All good to go. So here goes. I'm going to start with a bit of hand sanding first. So this is 120 grit, same speed as we've been turning at. It's just something. It's my preference. If you're at home, ignore what I'm doing in terms of my direct protection. Normally, what I've got two masks here. They're full face filter masks, blow fresh air in front of me all of the time. I'm trying to capture everything here, so myself and Tom don't get any taken in. But at home, you need to be wearing your protection all of the time. You're not talking to anybody on a microphone most of the time, so you don't need to think about that. So protect yourself. Even a very basic paper mask is better than nothing. So just a little bit of this 100. I'm purposely not folding the paper over. If I fold the paper over, I'm protecting my fingers from heat. I need to feel how hot this piece is getting. If it's getting too warm, it's going to split. So I'm just being really careful. I don't mind a little bit of feathering over on that bark area. That's fine. But we will do a little bit of power sanding to correct that in a moment. There we go. We did do a little bit on Instagram earlier of the hollowing and using the woodcut tool. Just a very, very quick bite-sized chunk. We will do a lot more with the woodcut in the next coming months. Like I said, it's my favourite hollower out there because it's so efficient. It does the job nice and quickly and just eliminates a lot of the catches that you can get going this deep inside a hollow form. There we are, look at that. Let's stop and have our first look at what we've got. What I'm looking for are tears, tooling marks. See, there's a line going around here. That's got to go. A little bit of glue residue there. That's got to go. So a little bit more work. And the reason that I've done the hollowing out without you guys watching is because it took, like we said, it took an hour and a bit. And it's not the most interesting of things to watch, purely because the tool is inside the pot all of the time. Just going to get through this first stage. Right, there we are. Now I'm going to go to a cordless drill and we're going to do a little bit of power sanding. There's two types or three types of power sanding really. If you consider, if I get them all. So if you consider, let's go with this one. So a hand rotary sander, something like this. So it's the inertia of the timber that makes this turn. That's the softest, the most gentle, the most sympathetic to the timber that you can get. Once you go from that, you go to a cordless drill. So that's the next step up again. So it's a little bit faster. It doesn't rely on the inertia from the timber. So you're sanding independently. But then you go to a corded drill. So here we go, got a cord to it. Just be careful when you're using these on a spinny lathe. It doesn't catch. But this is much faster than the cordless drill. So you've got those options. Now to start with, I'm going to go cordless because I'm going to not have the lathe running. I'm going to go with, what grit should we go with? Let's go with, I'm going to go with a 240. And just do some hand sanding. Sorry, just do some power sanding without the lathe running on the fastest setting. You're not going to see this brilliantly, but what I'm doing is just being careful not to do too much sanding on the edges of that little white spot there. So we're taking away the light. You can see, I don't know whether the camera can make this out. There is a line running around here. I've just taken it off there by just doing that little bit of quick sanding with the cordless. And because it's a non-corded, slightly slower action, I can control it just holding it by one hand and pivoting that bowl around with the other. 240 grit, remember this one. Really, really pretty timber. I was a little bit worried when we started this one last week, because down at this area here, you can just see there's a bark inclusion, and it ran right the way through to this side. So I was a little bit concerned about stability, but it's been okay. Doing the inside, yeah, it's come through, but it wasn't as severe as I was thinking it was, you know. I think now let's go over to the bigger drill, or the faster drill, not bigger. So power drill instead. A little bit. I'm going to stick with the 240, I think. So we've gone from 120 to 240. You don't have to. Right, this is a little bit noisier, this one. Would be if I turned it on anyway. There we go. That's nice. There's a lot going on in this piece. As well as the sap, we've got some dead branches there. We've got a little bit of pink coming through. We've got some burrs and pips and lovely things. So a little bit more work here, but we're nearly there. We'll just pop that out of the way for the moment. I'm going to go down to a 240. Just bring that around here. I couldn't quite get into there. We're going to clean that away in a moment. Any questions, Dom? Just while I'm...
Yes, wait, there are. I was just going to wait for you to finish the sanding, so you're good. John's asked, have you ever turned mulberry? He's just been given some. Yeah, any advice?
Mulberry's a stunner. It really is a pretty timber to work with. If you imagine, so acacia, which is a beautiful color anyway, but mulberry is just more extreme than that. Really deep yellows, really, really pretty timber to work. And a nice transition from white sap as well. Nice bark on it. So yeah, the real treat piece of mulberry. Well done.
And Nothing Crates has asked two things really. Do you have the timber stock sizes needed for your nutcrackers?
Yes. Send me an email. Who is that?
Nothing Crates.
Yep. Send me an email and I'll send you the plan. Well, we are currently working on a book for the how-to make nutcrackers, including router boxes, to create the mechanism. So they're going to be in the same sort of style as the German smoker book that I've done and the fruit making book that I've done. If you wanted to have a look at those, go on the website and you'll see them in the plan section. But yeah, absolutely, we're working on the book. But in the meantime, just send me an email and I'll send you the plan.
And they've also asked, what's the best toy finish?
The best
toy finishing for toys.
Oh, it depends really what you want to get from it, because paints have got toy finishes, oils toy finishes, lacquers can be a toy finish. So anything that carries that toy label, toy finish label, which I think is an EN72, Basically all that does is just check for heavy metals. So there's lots of different finishes that can be toy safe, as well as a lot which are food safe as well. So it's hard to say which is a favorite because it depends on the application.
And Fredericks asked, how do you check the wall thickness? He said he would imagine calipers would be difficult to use in with the given the shape.
Yeah, well, they can be, but if you go with something like one of these, there we are. So that's a fairly large calipers. And then I can show you, we're down to about, there we are, about 8 mil, I suppose, on that one. Let's bring them around. Okay, so you can check quite a long way down there. Don't scratch it at the side of the piece. That's the other thing to be careful of. What I mean by that is don't run it up and down, just check in, because you'll scratch the outside. But big calipers like that, you can get specific hollow form calipers that will hook in around here to check these. But where you can get your fingers in, you can check for thickness. It's down here which you can't. So that's where a nice set of big calipers come in handy. Okay, I think we go back to power sanding now and go up to a nice fine grit. Let's go to 400.
Just before you start, Fuller's just asked, a friend's given some, I guess, is it hornbeam?
Hornbeam, yeah.
It's very hard. What would be a good project for that?
Hornbeam. So perfect one that springs to mind is a workshop mallet. So a lot of carving mallets are made from hornbeam. Really, really nice grain to it. It works beautifully. It's got a lovely color, that lovely creamy white. So yeah, workshop mallet. It's perfectly made for that sort of thing. All right, for the minute. Stop and have another check. See, it's cold to the touch. That's what we want. You don't want to be sanding so heavy that things are getting really hot, because that end grain just will not put up with it. It will crack so quickly. And it's nice there with just touching that, feeling that coldness. You know that we're all good. It's all good. I can just see a couple of scratches though. Good. Right, I'm going to go right the way down. 600 grit now. So cut a little bit of 600 off. You could go to 800. Depends on whether there were scratches left from doing this. But what I want to do is not so much to get rid of scratches. This is to improve the sheen of the piece, ready for the oil. The better, and I found this with an oil specifically, the better finish you get off the abrasive, the better finish you'll get off the oil later. So work it. Now, a lot of people would sanding seal and then put a spray lacquer on. Absolutely fine. I'd sort of shy away from wax on this sort of stuff. And the reason that I would is wax is beautiful on certain things, but on here where we've got texture, so that little bark inclusion, you'll always have a wax line coming away from it. So spray on lacquers, oils, or things that you can buff afterwards. And I'm going to have to buff this afterwards, because if you weren't here, I put an oil on this, then I'd walk away and leave it probably for about an hour, and then give it a buff. And then I would wait overnight and put another coat of oil on it again, very light one, and then do the same thing. And you can do that as many times as you want. You can treat oil like French polish and build it up. You know, there. What a pretty bit of wood. Real pretty bit of timber, that one.
Fuller's just asked, do you ever mist a piece down with a plant spritzer to keep it from drying out on the lathe?
I haven't, because most of the time I'm finishing straight away. wet sanding, the method of wet sanding, that's a good way of making those microfibers stand up, of course. But I don't tend to do too much of it here. I'm going to do a little bit more sanding, however. Let's go back with my cordless drill. I'm just noticing a few lines. I probably didn't sand long enough and hard enough with the coarser grade, so I'm just going to go over with the 400. You know what it's like if you leave those areas, then put a finish on, they suddenly jump out, and then they're going to be right in front of your face forever. You'll see them all the time. That's us and them going now. That's better.
Just a quick question from Gentleman Woodturner Cole. Do you know why yew is particularly prone to heat checks from over sanding?
I really don't. There's a few timbers that are. A lot of the what I would refer to as exotics, and remember I'm in the UK. So exotics for me are the very denser timbers that we get imported, usually from Africa, North America, that sort of thing. It's those timbers, which I'll be honest, I don't use a lot of, but they're prone to it as well. And I would only guess it's the density of the material. And I don't mean hardness, and I don't mean weight and things like that. I mean the pure density. So take a bit of oak, for instance, which is a heavy, hard timber, but it doesn't have as many issues as yew would. Beech is another one that you can have problems with. Maple's another one, and I just feel that they're just probably a little bit denser, if you know what I mean. I guess it has something to do with specific gravity. I don't know, because I don't know the specific gravity numbers for a piece of yew against a piece of oak, for instance. So I'm sure there's some very clever people watching that will know far more about that than me. There we are. I'm going to go back with that 600 again now. There we go. Let's have a look at that. That's better. A bit happier now. Now I'm going to put a finish on. I'm going to put that that food safe oil on. Remember, the only reason that I'm using the food safe oil is because it's clear. It's almost, like I said, completely see-through like water. So it's going to be the least amount of color change for me on here. So yeah, I think whilst I'm doing this, let me just talk about some of the suggestions that we've had. Now, we've had loads. I mean, about 50 altogether. We just very roughly counted.
Yeah, it's
about 50
over all the channels, wasn't it?
My whiteboard's over here, so we've written a few of them down, and we've got Klein bowls. So that's from Kay. Kay giving that suggestion. Kay also came up with a really nice bowl that I am going to do, and I'm going to do a few for the shop here. Basically, a handled bowl and turned wet and allowed to move. And those, where it's gone slightly oval, those little cutouts for the handles have been in the higher areas. So you wait for it to dry and then cut those out. They looked really neat, so I'm going to do a few of those. Not for this one. I'll do that later down the line. Russian dolls is a good one. Woodworker's mallet, end grain, pint beer pot. So that's with the old, what are they, pinch pots, I guess. It's done in that sort of way. Fluted candlesticks. What was that? Oh, salt and pepper spoons. I thought that said salt pig spoons then from it. Salt and pepper spoons. But
I think it was a salt pig.
A salt pig?
Yeah, sorry. It's just my joined up left-handed rising. Yeah.
Well, the one we're going to go for is from Jessica in Colorado. It's going to be a hummingbird. Now, I've done a few birds before. We've done ducks in a row, and we've done oyster catchers and things like that. But I've wanted to do um, a hummingbird for quite a while, but also we're going to do a similar shape, and we're going to do a woodpecker also. So I'm going to work on those within the next few days. But the hummingbird, of course, is going to fly its way over to Jessica in Colorado. And I just, I had a look on Jessica's Instagram feed, and she's a professional turner herself. She does a lot of demonstrations. I just wanted to put you onto some of her creations because she's done some German smokers, so she sort of likes the same sort of turning that I enjoy as well. So it's Turning PNT Studios. So check out Jessica's work on there. She's some really awesome stuff. But we're going to send this over. Once we've done a hummingbird, we're going to show you first. We're going to show you the making of it, and then we're going to get it all the way over to Colorado, across the water, to Jessica. Jessica, if you're watching, we will let you know when that's going to happen. I'm going to have to get your address and all those sorts of things. So yeah, so the hummingbird is going to be the first one, but we're going to shoehorn a few other birds in there as well.
I think the plan going forward as well, we're going to do more of these suggestions. So yeah, they will be.
Well, because it saves us work, doesn't it, Tom? We
Yeah,
don't have to think of things. So it's a good idea. Love some really good things. I mean, we've been doing this 4 years, I think it is, coming up with different ideas, and they do. I wouldn't say they dry up, but having potentially thousands of people giving you ideas, it's a really non-exhaustible resource that we're going to tap into. Look at that. It's the best bit of the job, isn't it, really, putting on a finish? The reason I would do this in several attacks rather than just do it in one go is because this has to dry, it has to be absorbed. End grain is going to take that oil in more quickly than the side grain. You can already see that happening. This is starting to get absorbed nicely. I would have also put my airline on it. I didn't do that.
Frederick Starskull, do you ever wet the timber to raise the grain between grits, or do you think it's not necessary?
It is on certain things. This is going to be wet sanded now. So we put the oil on. We're now going to start sanding with a nice fine grit, which is going to create a lovely slurry and a mixture of dust from the bowl and the oil. And that also acts as a grain filler. So this is a two-pronged attack. I'm using, let's go with 400 grit. Obviously, it may not be obvious, but if it isn't, you need a lathe which has a variable speed. I'm running there at 180 revs. If I was going much quicker than that, I get a face full of oil. So this is doing exactly what you're suggesting, Frederick. The nap of the grain, those little microfibers are starting to stand up. We're now taking them off. We're encouraging that oil to dry a little bit as well. And soak in. In a minute, when we start getting proper warmth into the piece, you'll see exactly what I mean. And what will happen in time, and it's the same on bowls, is you'll feel the dragging of that oil as it creates that slurry, as it starts to get absorbed, starts to dry. You'll feel it drag as it comes round. You can start to see my hands moving as it rotates. And like I say, you can build a high shine with oil as long as you're patient. You treat it like French polish. You wait, let it dry, sand it back. Wait, let it dry, sand it back. Each subsequent coat needs to be really, really fine. Old saying that we used to use was let the rag sniff the tin. That finer coat. So we just take off some of that. Oh, I've gone all blurry. I think it's come back. We're all good. If anybody wonders, we're working on a different camera for this one. This overhead cam is a little bit weird with its color. The bowl isn't actually that orange. So we're going to work on getting a new camera. Just taking off some of the excess. go. If I didn't have such a clean workshop, I'd want to use some shavings now just to burnish. See if I can find some in it. Oh, I got a big bag of shavings over there after tidying up earlier. Bear with me. Got a handful of those. Shavings, there's nothing clever about using shavings at this point. They're burnishing, really, but they're taking off the excess. Just make sure you haven't got too much grip from the floor. When you guys have gone, I'm going to put some oil on the inside as well. Bearing in mind this is a wet piece, so I don't want it to dry too quickly. So a little bit of oil on the inside will really benefit this pot. Yeah, let's have a look. Ooh, that's nice, isn't it? This is nice. My favorite area around here. This one and this one. You got that mixture of the dark greys, the whites, and the orange. That's brought that color out really nicely. I'm chuffed with that. So let's get to taking this bit away. I take this off for the first time in it's nearly 10 days now. There we are. So we've got that. You can see the form slightly better when it's off and standing upright. All right, so that's just got to remove this base down here. So what we'll do, I'm just going to change chucks. Go for something with a little C jaw on. And this is just a dome. You might need reshaping. We'll see in a moment. This dome is going to be used as a drive. Oh no, we're good there. Used as a drive while the tailstock supports that back end. A little bit of tissue in between the timber and the drive. Now this is going to be slightly out. I've got a lot going on the underside here. Oh, one thing I haven't done yet, let me just check to make sure we have our centers aligned. 2 seconds. Centers have to be aligned, otherwise we're going to get a little bit too much friction. So I'll just put a little dot on the inside of that drive. You could go and take the chuck off if we could take the chuck off if you wanted to and line the centers up that way, but let's just put a little dot there. Then bring that up. That's it. That's aligned that one. The only reason I thought actually that might not be, that's going to be out a little bit, is because there's a little bit of a creak. I don't like creaks because creaks are vibration. So hopefully we won't get too much. Not too bad. Is it out a little bit? I'm not fussed. I'm really not worried. You can mess around with that and get it dead right if you want to. I'm not going to worry too much. Let's go with a slightly smaller tool rest. And I'm going to go with a small gouge. We'll cut some of this off. I'm not going to try and turn the whole thing off, but small little 6mm gouges, tool of choice. Everything's tight. Make sure, lock it all in. Lathe speed to 0. Turn the lathe on. Now you can see it's out a little bit. I'm not really that worried about it. The reason I want to stop and check in a minute is because we have that bark inclusion running down through. Let's just have a stop and check. That's gorgeous, that is. Shame it's the bit I'm taking away. You can see the bark. Now that's running all the way through. So I've got to be a little bit careful with this. So what we'll do, I think, is we'll cut this off and then realign. So when I say cut it off, I'm going to come down a little bit further, put a parting tool cut in, use a little pull saw, cut it down, reattach the tailstock just to make sure. I don't want to weaken it too much. All right, that'll be fine for the moment. Let's just have another quick check. See that bark all the way through. So the danger is, if I cut too far, I've actually taken away these areas. These are the strong areas here, and leaving only bark in the middle, which we know is going to be really, really weak. So what I need to do is cut down. I'll probably only cut down a little bit now. Just turn my phone off, Tom, or the speaker. And then we'll cut through with a pull saw. They'll get bored in a minute. Thanks, Tom. Let's have a look, see where we are. Well, I'm just gonna risk a little bit more. Okay, let's have a look at that bark inclusion again. I think I've got to that point where I better stop. We'll cut it off and then reattach. So little pull saw. release some of that pressure. There we go. So this is just as what I've done because that's now fallen into. So it wouldn't have gone much further. There we are. Right. What we'll do now, look, it's just things that we're all going to encounter at some point. That bark inclusion, my pencil's just sinking into that. So you've got options. You can just fill it full of thin CA glue if you want to harden it up. And that's what I've done to start with. But what I'll do instead on this one, I'll use a slightly bigger tailstock center and take as much as I can away before we start sanding. So let's go with this one. Again, this is one of the Axminster Pro drives. It's got a lot of paint on it, but it does the job. So it's a 1 inch across in terms of its hold point. I'm going to just take a guess at where center is. Put a little brattle mark in. So we've got a solid center-ish about there. Oh, just skidding away there. But because we have all of these teeth here, it should be okay. I'm not doing too much more to it either. So I just want to get rid of a little bit more of that sacrificial foot. There we are. So those serrations run around. So you can see we've got a lot of grit running around into the solid timber as well. So that's going to be good enough just to take that a little bit away. Lathe speed back to 0. We've changed things on the lathe. So lathe on and then lathe up. Go. I think that'll have to do for the minute. Any questions at the moment, Tom? We've got a quiet.
Nope, none so far.
All nice and quiet. Okay.
It's looking good though, isn't it? Are you happy with how it's going?
I'm happy with this part. It's lovely.
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah.
So, is you one of your favourites to turn with?
You is my one of my favourite. I'm a massive oak fan. But you can't deny the colours in this. It's just awesome. This is Vicky's favourite. She loves you, Tom.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, I love her too. Yeah. Does she ever get any new things for the house? Or?
She does. Remember, we went for a walk. It's only a 9-mile walk, or sort of more of a hike. Halfway along that hike, there was a yew tree that shed one of the branches. She carried that branch all the way back to the car, just so we could make something with it. Yeah, but no, we've got quite a few yew pieces. So just handle this 180 now. So just do this first little bit. I'm not being overly careful because we're going to then put a rotary sander on here. Again, if you guys weren't here, I'd get my powered carver and just take that little nib away. But instead, I'm just going to throw lots of heavy grit at it. There we are. Just a quick 400. Get rid of some of these tools, turn that off. Yeah. Good. Put that down there. That little drive is just there was a bit of elm, just a scrap piece of elm that I had lying around, just turned into a cone. I mean, you can buy them, but it's just as easy to make your own. And I've made drive dogs in all sort of shapes for different bowls, hollow forms, pots. I can come off. Just grabbing a set of jaws. I don't have to use these. I could put any jaw that closed down to a nice small size on. We're going to hold a 3-inch power sander head, and we're going to go really coarse to start with. So I'm going to bung an 80 on there. And once we've done that, we can then go down through all of the grades, of course. So 80 dust extraction is going to go back on because we're going to rip that little plug away. Yeah, that's 80. Let's go. Start going now through the grades. I should, if that's a good 240, yeah. I should be able to just go straight to make some jumps, so we can go jump up a little bit now. Look, as long as that takes away the sounding marks from the 80.
Frederick's asked a question, Cole. He uses the lathe to sand just as you're doing right now, but he finds that the sandpaper just won't adhere to the mandrel. Do these mandrels have a lifespan?
To the mandrels,
Yeah.
to these,
Yeah.
yes, yeah, they do. Especially if, Frederick, one has come off and you've just taken the tops of those little hooks away. So yeah, but it's a difficult one. If they do come off, moving quick enough to stop that from happening. But yeah, that's normally the cause of it. And that happens more on the inside of bowls and things like that. Look at that. We're getting a really good finish, despite the fact we got a big bark inclusion in there. So that was a bit of a challenge, that making sure that stayed on whilst we were finishing that little bit off. I'm going to go down now to the 400, and then we'll just pop a little bit of oil on that. That's a really pretty piece of timber. Another Dean special. A lovely shine coming from that. So, bit of oil. A little bit of oil. Just soak it into that bark. Was all of that off camera? Sorry, Tom. I wasn't paying attention. So what I'll do with that now, I'm going to leave that here overnight. In the morning, I'm going to apply another coat. I'm going to apply another coat before the students turn up. We've got another course tomorrow, so another group of turners will be let loose into the world as of tomorrow, and as of Saturday, sorry. So look, what we're going to do with that now, it was going to let that dry. That oil will take, any oil tends to take, usually to be safe, a good 24 hours to cure. So it can be touch dry within about an hour, but to cure about 24 hours. At that point, just a very light denib, just to bring that back again. And then another coat of oil. The next coat of oil is an important one. That's going to be, this has gone in nice and deep. The other one's going to lie more on the surface, and then you start building up. Don't forget what I also said, I'm going to pour some on the inside and let that move around and coat the inside nicely just to keep it stable. And then that one is going to go on the shelf. We'll Instagram that, won't we? So we'll do a little Instagram post on that so they can see it finished as well. So yeah, let's just have a look at some. I'm going to come close to this one, Tom. I just wanted to show some of the lovely areas of this one. There's what I was talking about earlier, these lovely pips and burrs that are going on, a lot of dead branches. The bark inclusion itself is quite a nice feature, but then you come around to the sap area, a little bit of natural edge left on there as well. So a lot of things going on for that bowl, and I suppose, or hollow form, that you just change it and have it facing out to whatever suits you at the time, or a little bit of sap. There we are. Any questions, Tom?
No, I think we are done with questions today.
It's unlike this not to be that quiet.
I know.
Don't forget, like I said, next week now we're going to be doing a hummingbird. Thanks to Jessica. Have a look at her Instagram posts and her website, Turning PNT Studios. So Jessica, you're going to be getting the hummingbird once we've made it, of course. So give me next week at least, and then I'll get the address and we'll post it out to you in Colorado. Tom,
is it next week?
Is it next week, Tom?
I can't remember what we said.
Have a look on the calendar behind you, Tom. Me and Tom, we were only talking about it just before. Yeah. It is. Yes, it is. It's next week. Okay, so yeah, that's going to fly by, isn't it? I've got to make a whole flock of, is it a flock of hummingbirds or flock of woodpeckers? Solitary birds, woodpeckers, I know that, but there. So that's what we're going to be doing next week. Thanks ever so much for taking part and sending all those ideas. And thanks for watching today. Don't forget, if you like what you see, give us a thumbs up. Most important thing to us, though, is your subscription. If you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, that would be awesome. Check out all the other videos on there. There's a really good video on there. I say it myself, but I think it's a really good video on your first bowl. And so turning from a rough turn bowl to a finished one, have a look at that. There's some fruit videos on there. And subscribe to the channel. Don't forget our Instagram channel as well. We try and put all the finished pieces on there that we can, and information as much as possible also. So yeah, is that everything from yourself, Tom?
Yes, really good. Yeah, well done, everyone.
Lovely.
Yeah, see you next week.
Thank you so much for stopping by, and we'll see you next week with hummingbirds. Bye-bye.